Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of Empire State of Sports. My name is Alex Rocco, and today I'm alongside Evan Marcus, Josh Decicco, and Tommy Rocco. And this week in New York sports, wasn't a lot going on. However, two huge football games. The New York Giants took on the Seattle Seahawks, and the New York Jets took on the Las Vegas Raiders. So we'll get into the Giants game first. And going into the Giant game, the Giants were a -10 underdog. However, the Giants stunned the Seattle Seahawks and came out with a 17-12 win. As a Giant fan, you just saw them come out with a different type of swagger. You knew that this game was going to be different. They came out with a different type of intensity, and that showed throughout the entirety of the game. They were down 5-0 at halftime after a field goal and a safety. But Alfred Morris scored a pair of third-quarter touchdowns, and the New York Giants defense was phenomenal all season long as they held the top offense, or one of the top offenses in the league, to just 12 points and one touchdown. And the Giants started 0-5, and now we're 5-7, and they sit atop the NFC East. They're tied with the Washington football team after their upset win over the now not undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. But looking back at the Giant game, backup Colt McCoy stepped in for Daniel Jones and did a decent job, 13 of 22 for 105 yards, a touchdown and an interception. But on offense, the Giants were carried by their running game, 190 total yards, and 135 of them came on the back of the Wayne train, Wayne Gallman. He was excellent in this game. The Giants' offensive line was great. Alfred Morris pitched in 39 yards and a touchdown on 8 carries. And then receiving, it was just a balanced attack. Evan Ingram had 32 yards on 4 catches. Golden Tate had 30 yards on 4 catches. Sterling Shepard had 22 yards on a catch. Darius Slayton had 14 yards on a catch. Alfred Morris had 1 catch, which was a touchdown. Sterling Shepard also ended up with a 2-point conversion. But in this game, it was the Giants' defense that carried him. Middle linebacker Blake Martinez was excellent in this game. He finished the game with 10 total tackles. He did get injured in this one. He has a lower back injury. The Giants are hopeful that he will be playing this week. But you saw other guys step up. Tate Crowder was excellent. He finished with 7 tackles and a sack. James Bradbury was excellent, locking down a top receiver in the league in DK Metcalf. Rookie Darnay Holmes had his first interception. Jabril Peppers was phenomenal all game long. But the player of the game for the New York Giants was defensive end Leonard Williams. He finished with 2.5 sacks and 2 tackles for loss, which was good enough to bring him a defensive player of the week for the NFC. And looking over on the Seattle side, the Giants really just clamped down. They had 5 total sacks. Russell Wilson finished with 263 yards. The running game, Chris Carson had 65 yards. And then their receiving was balanced. DK Metcalf, 80 yards. Tyler Lockett, 63 yards. Chris Carson, 45 yards and a touchdown. But now I'm going to send it over to Josh, our Seahawk fan. And now, as a Seahawk fan, give me your perspective on the game.
Unlike the Giants, the Seahawks started off the season doing very well and unfortunately have fallen off towards the latter half of the season. I like to blame it on them doing terrible, but they played a decent game against the Giants. The receiving was decent. Russell Wilson played decent, not great. The running wasn't awful. It could have been better, obviously. The Giants just played really, really good defense, and you just have to give them all the credit in the world. They really earned that victory, and, I see big things coming from them soon. They're definitely making their way back in the league. There were a couple really cool catches that I have to point out with the Seahawks. Catch by Tyler Lockett, big hit by the Giants, great play by the defender there. And I also just want to point out a great stiff arm by DK Metcalf. I mean, you can't stand in the way of the tracks when the train's coming through. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, so when you're talking about that hit, it was a good face mask. It was a good play, good little stiff arm. However, if you dig a little deeper in the play, you can clearly see DK Metcalf grab the face mask of cornerback James Bradbury. It's bright and day. I don't know how the refs didn't call it a penalty, to be honest. However, a lot of the NFL social media was hyping it up everywhere. it wasn't that nice of a play. James Bradbury tackled him for a lot. He didn't get any other additional yards from that stiff arm, and Bradbury almost poked the ball from him. So I don't really see where the hype was. I think James Bradbury made an excellent play on it.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, the refs didn't see it. I don't know. If the refs don't call it, it's obviously not an illegal play. I mean, yes, they make mistakes, but it looked very clean to me. That was just pure dominance. If you look back on the play, it's pretty evident how big DK Metcalf is. It's pretty crazy. And I also beg to differ because if you look at the play again, there are three defenders as soon as he puts the stiff arm out. There's no way he's getting more than 2-3 more yards if he gets away with that without the tackle. Great play by Bradbury. I have to give him credit for that, but I mean, pure dominance from DK Metcalf. You can't deny that.
He grabbed the face mask and Bradbury tackled him. That's what every cornerback coach teaches all of their players. No matter what age group, you go and make the tackle. However, we'll switch up from this topic. Granted, it was a great play by James Bradbury, but I'm going to ask Evan. You were a big advocate of Colt McCoy, talking about his dominance before the game. So what did you see from the veteran quarterback stepping in this role?
I think he took advantage of his opportunities. Obviously, with Daniel Jones out, that was a big hit because he was a really big influential factor in the Giants' offense. And Colt McCoy coming in, there was a lot of questions to be asked, and everybody wanted to see what would happen. But he lived up to it. Obviously, looking at the stats, he only threw for a little over 100 yards. They obviously ran the ball more, but Colt McCoy still had to do his job. He said in one of his press conferences that he had very high praise for Daniel Jones as a leader on the team and said he gave him a lot of tips and helped him out. So it's good to see the team working together and one quarterback helping out, another when he's down. Colt McCoy took advantage of his opportunity and got them the win.
Excellent analysis. Colt McCoy made some great throws down the stretch, which ultimately helped the Giants pull out a victory. But you mentioned Daniel Jones being out, and it's all signs are pointing to Daniel Jones is going to play Sunday against the Arizona Cardinals. And if Jones is the starting quarterback for this game, it's going to be a huge help for the Giants. Colt McCoy was good, but he's no Daniel Jones. When you have Daniel Jones in that offense, there's so many different things that Jones can do. You don't know whether he's going to run or pass. And the way Jones has been playing the last 3 games before his injury, he had been playing excellent football. So, Tommy, I'm going to ask you, do you see the Giants coming away with a victory against the Cardinals on Sunday?
I think they pose a pretty good chance. As you said, their running game has clearly been lifted up in the last week. Based off of both Gallman and Alfred Morris's stellar performances. And when you replace what was a game manager in Colt McCoy with a clearly above average, very good quarterback in Daniel Jones back in that system, I see no reason for the Giants offense not to play very well next week against Arizona.
To add on to that too, I think they do pose a pretty big threat, but it's really going to be key for the Giants defense to be on the top of their game. Throughout the rest of the season, it's really going to be reliant on their defense. If their defense is at the top of their game, they're going to be very successful.
Yeah, defense wins championships. So if they can keep that up, then I think they have a good chance.
And the Giants have a criminally underrated defense.
Agreed. Yeah, the Giants have a very good defense, and we can see how well they played good against multi-dimensional teams like the Seahawks this week. So I don't know how much as good as Arizona's offense is, with Kyler Murray being an outstanding quarterback this year and having one of the best receivers in the NFL and DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think it's too far out of the task for the Giants defense to step up and play like they did this week. James Bradbury has been a top 5 cornerback. Their linebacking core has done great. They have a healthy, young defense that's all over the field, and that's all you can ask for a team. I see the Giants continuing the momentum and taking out the win, possibly.
It's great analysis. I couldn't say it any better myself. You mentioned that the Giants have an excellent secondary led by James Bradbury, and that matchup with DeAndre Hopkins is going to be one that is watched everywhere. A top 5 corner going up against a top 5 receiver. It's going to be a fun one to watch. Now switching over to the other team in New York, the New York Jets. And this game was everywhere. Going into the game, Jets were 0-11. And the Las Vegas Raiders were 6-5. This game had such a big impact on the Raiders for playoff spot. And obviously the Jets, they want to come out with a victory. And the Jets ended up losing 31-28 on a last-second touchdown by rookie receiver Henry Ruggs when the Jets sent an all-out blitz. We'll get into that play call a little bit later. But first, I'm just going to give you a quick little overview of the game. Looking on the Jets side, quarterback Sam Darnold was okay. 14 of 23 for 186 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. But when you look at the Jets offense, their running game was phenomenal. Rookie running back Ty Johnson out of Maryland, 22 carries, 104 yards and a touchdown. And then running back Josh Adams out of Notre Dame, 8 carries, 74 yards. The Jets' running game was excellent. Sam Darnold would also tally in a rushing touchdown, however, fumbled twice. And if you want to come away with the victory, Sam Darnold had 3 turnovers in this game, and that resulted in 10 Las Vegas Raiders points. And the Jets ended up losing by 3. That was the difference in this game. And looking at the receiving stats for the Jets, Jamison Crowder, 47 yards, Denzel Mims, 40. But looking over on the Raiders side, they had a hard time stopping the pass. Derek Carr finished with 381 yards, 3 touchdowns and an interception. The Raiders' running game lacked as their star running back, Josh Jacobs, was injured, but their receiving corps was dominant. And this was led by a career day by tight end Darren Waller. 13 catches, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rookie receiver Henry Ruggs, who had the game-winning touchdown, 3 catches, 84 yards, and Hunter Renfrow, 4 catches, 47 yards. So I'm going to start off with Tommy here, as he is the biggest Jet fan out of all of us. What is your opinion on the game, and especially that last play call, sending an all-out blitz with 12 seconds left in the game?
See, on behalf of Jets fans everywhere, I can safely say we're actually really happy that they lost that game because we couldn't rely on Arizona to win in order to keep our seeded number 1 pick. Because right now we only have a game over Jacksonville, the Jaguars. We can't rely on Jacksonville to beat Minnesota, but I'm not really sure what Greg Williams was thinking if he was legitimately trying to call a play there by sending a goal line formation play to try to come out with the sack when they're at the 50-yard line. But I assume they were actually trying to throw the game in order to tank for the first overall pick, which would be possibly their next quarterback of the future, probably in Trevor Lawrence. But as a Jets fan, and a lot of Jets fans would agree with me, I'm actually really happy that they didn't win that game.
You mentioned the defensive coordinator, Greg Williams, and just one day later after calling that play, he has been fired. And there's been one player for the Jets on their defense who has spoke out a lot about that play call, and that was safety Marcus May, who has been the vocal leader for the Jets on their defense, and he played excellent in this game. He had 2 pass deflections. Quinnen Williams had an excellent game. He finished with a sack and a tackle for loss. So the Jets defense played well at times, but they really lacked in the pass. And Evan, I'm going to go over to you because you talked a lot last week about the Jets quarterback play. You mentioned Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold. What did you think of Sam Darnold's performance?
Well, I first want to say, I guess my prediction's still holding up of them going totally defeated for the season. I thought Sam Darnold's performance was mediocre. I mean, they obviously played well. It was a close game. Came down to the last play. So for those Jets fans who are really hurting and looking at their team and worried, it maybe takes a little bit of that worry away, looking that they could put up some kind of fight there. They had a lot of mistakes that they easily could have fixed. But like Tommy said, it's for the best that they lost the game. I mean, they can't come out and say that they're trying to lose, but they really shouldn't. They really shouldn't try and win any more games because they could really use that first pick.
And now looking forward from this game, The Jets will take on the Seattle Seahawks this week. So the Seahawks getting both New York teams in the span of 2 weeks. So now I'm going to ask Josh, how big is this game for the Seahawks?
Well, first of all, I'd just like to comment on the previous game. Jets, if you didn't know, the J stands for joke of the NFL. But you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of an optimistic look on this on this last game. I mean, for Sam Darnold, he played an excellent game. Obviously, in the realm of quarterbacks being good, it's a terrible game. But for him, you have to expect at least 2 or 3 turnovers minimum. But anyway, I just like to say that I also agree with Tommy that we have to assume that he was trying to throw the game. Otherwise, it's just really bad if he called that on purpose. And yeah, so I'm very happy with the result, and I was cheering them on as they were losing. So for the Seahawks, I think this next game will be extremely important for them. As you guys know, I'm a Seahawks and Jet fan. If the Seahawks and Jets are playing, I'm gonna root for the Seahawks. Unfortunately, I'm a New York native, but I got my heart lies in Seattle. I think this could be a really big turning point for the Seahawks as they've had a little bit of a downfall in the last few games. Getting a win can really help them in boosting their confidence, shifting momentum back into a winning spirit. Momentum is one of the most important things in all of sports. Once you shift the momentum and you get going in the right winning direction, there's no stopping you, depending on how your mindset is. So I think this could be a really, really important game. And if the Jets are going to continue to try to go defeated, it's their opportunity to get a win for the Seahawks.
Something to note on that Seahawks thing is you got to remember Russell Wilson at the beginning of the season was a front runner for the MVP. So they really need him to start getting back to that caliber of play if they want to have a successful end of the season.
Yeah, I expect the Seahawks to come out with a rejuvenated effort as they were sort of embarrassed by the New York Giants, and look for the Seahawks to dominate against the Jets. That's going to do it for today's episode. It was great talking about all of football coverage for this week. And stay tuned till next week as we break down the Giants and Cardinals game and the Seahawks and Jets game and any other baseball news. Mets, Yankees, Islanders, Rangers are starting up soon. Knicks and Nets will start up soon. So stay tuned to Empire State of Sports. We got it covered here. As for Evan Marcus, Josh Decicco, and Tommy Rocco, I'm Alex Rocco, and I'm signing out.